Welcome to Writers on the Air. This morning, I am your host, along with Linda R. Wright, and my name is Linda Schell. Writers on the Air is dedicated to all writers and genres. Until COVID, we met Sunday afternoons at Common Grounds Meeting Hall next door to WKDW 97.5 FM radio in the warm Mineral Springs Shopping Plaza in Northport. WKDW Radio is the home of Real Community Radio and is on the air through the efforts of volunteers at WKDW and the sponsors for our various shows. One of our proud examples is Open Mic, which airs on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock with Bud Buckley. Bud invites songwriters and singers to perform. Please contact Bud if you would like to join his jam sessions that right now are COVID-19 friendly. Our address is 12737 Tamiami Trail in Northport. Our station phone number is 941-564-8739. 941-564-8739. And now we'll begin our show, and we're very happy to introduce you to a brand new guest today. Her name is Loretta Anderson, and she is now retired, but she is has had a very interesting life. She has been a missionary down in the Caribbean. One of the islands is Dominica. She's been a missionary in the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands in the Caribbean. Although that's in the Caribbean, excuse me. And she has a degree in American Studies, so she's been a teacher as well. She's taught social studies. She has a minor in English, and she's taught English. And she's been teaching technology, that Apple and Macintosh equipment that's pretty hard for old timers like me to understand. And she's also very well read in Windows. But the thing that she's here today for is her missionary work. And she's written 2 books. One is Words of Life, and it's in paperback, and it's available on Amazon, and it's also available on Lulu. Our technician, Marie, just put Words of Life up on the screen. And Loretta has also written Wounded Soldiers. It's available on Amazon in ebook form only. So, welcome, Loretta, to Writers on the Air. And we're very much waiting to hear what you want to read for us today.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy that I came across this opportunity, and I'm going to read for you today from Words of Life, a chapter called Early Reflection. So it'll tell you a little bit more about myself because this book is it's a collection of writings by me. Early Reflections. I was raised in an all black neighborhood and attended all black schools with all black teachers through 6th grade. My exposures to whites was limited to weekends when my father would take me on his jack of all trades job. My family at home and the wider family at church was my whole world. I never really thought about the world outside of school, church, and home. We lived in the biggest house on the street with a backyard that was huge enough for us to play kickball and football at the same time. Our neighbors had to come to us. We were not allowed to go to their houses or play in their yards. My mother never allowed us to do sleepovers, not even with our relatives. I grew up quite insulated, not knowing there was more I could enjoy. In 4th grade, I discovered writing. My teacher, Mrs. Folks, encouraged me. We had a school newspaper and I started writing poems at that time. I did not see writing as a career. How could I? The only career I could see for myself was to be a teacher. However, I lived solidly in the present during my elementary school years. The future was of no concern to me. I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed seeing my work in print. However, my passion was reading. "Where's Loretta?" someone would ask. My mother would answer, "She's somewhere with her head stuck in a book." My father would bring home stuff from his jobs that people were getting rid of. I always got the books. No one censored what I read. I read books that made no sense to me, books that were very sexual in nature, books about life, fiction books, nonfiction. I read Shakespeare. I read Emerson. I read Thoreau. The joy was in the reading. I learned to be discriminating as I grew. I developed strong likes and dislikes of certain authors and genres. Thank God my parents never discouraged that passion. I only had to be prodded away when it was time to do chores. "Get your head out of that book and wash those dishes," was a line I frequently heard from my mother. Reading helped me to be an outstanding speller. Even now, the first thing I see when I read anything is a misspelled word. Reading also increased my vocabulary. The dictionary was a very good friend to me as I grew. In college, I did my best in classes that required a lot of reading and writing. Blue Book, that is essay and short answer tests, became my favorite.
Thank you. I'm relating to you. I grew up on a farm, and I remember the isolation. And you have to make your own good time, so it's a perfect factory for learning how to write and read. I
Yes.
appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to read for something myself. It's just a short essay. It's called "A Scary Story for Debbie." Debbie's my sister-in-law. On April 1st, 1990, I had just finished signing the contract for the sale of our 19,000 square foot building in St. Clairsville, Ohio, also known as Paradise on the Hilltop, located 20 miles west of Wheeling, West Virginia. The sale of that building was no small feat because two similar buildings in town remained for sale for close to 30 years. On that April Fool's Day, a liberating feeling filled my being. Our next move would be Florida and a new life. Goodbye, snow and cold, was what I was thinking as I briskly walked down the sidewalk to Jeffrey's Pharmacy. Not paying attention, I stepped off the curb into the path of a beat-up blue car that housed a shaggy, bearded man, impatiently pulling up to the light. The driver slammed on the brakes. I waved appreciatively and continued on my way to the pharmacy. About 20 minutes of rummaging at the pharmacy, I was on my way to our duplex. When I passed the parking lot across the street from Beck's funeral home, I saw the same rusty blue car in the parking lot, which was parallel to the street running along the side of our apartment. Nothing about the car's presence registered. It didn't occur to me at the time that the driver inside the vehicle seemed to be waiting. When I entered our back door, I immediately went through the kitchen and up the stairs. I wanted to rest. I remember the sunlight shining through the upstairs bathroom window and thinking what a beautiful spring day when the phone rang. St. Mary's Elementary called to tell me to pick up my 5-year-old. The school said he was sick. I raced downstairs to the kitchen. The owner of the blue car was at my back door and was jiggling the doorknob. I shouted, "What do you want?" Even though he mumbled, I could hear him say from behind the door, "I'm looking for John." I had the presence of mind to retort as I held the wall phone to my ear, "There's no John who lives here. Get the hell out of here, or I'm calling the police." The mangy 40-something-year-old man shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly, turned around, and carrying a very large duffel bag, strode away in the direction of his car. I will always believe I had a close call. Fast forward to the day before Halloween 2021, my sister-in-law came home to find homemade bread and cookies missing from her kitchen. She never locks her doors. Canfield, Ohio is much bigger than St. Clairsville and far more prosperous. Her first thought, someone had entered her house. After much investigation, she discovered it was her husband who had taken the homemade bread and cookies out of the kitchen. My thoughts were, Debbie, this is an omen. I didn't bother to lock my door in St. Clairsville either. It was just my luck that the kitchen door locked automatically, or I might not be here to tell my story.
Ooh.
Okay. And I've got one from our Scottish lady, Sheila. I think she might be back by now because it's getting cold up in Canada. She says, I'm afraid of sharks. Oh, I read this before in the show, and it really bothers me. She says, I'm afraid of sharks, and when bathing in the sea, I look around to make sure there is none swimming close to me. But I would never dream of doing what some other people do, cut off their fins while still alive. Can you imagine the suffering they go through? Then they're thrown back into the sea, where they sink and die in such misery, so we can have some shark fin soup. Should we be angry at such cruelty? These customs should be stopped today. So raise your voices loud in protest. You can have a say, and we can stop thousands of sharks being massacred this way. I know that in our country we do cruel things as well. Crabs put on a barbecue don't do very well. And boiling a lobster while it's still alive gives me the shivers and brings me out in hives. So if you want to eat them, kill them quickly, please. It's the human way to do it. Then we can sit at ease and enjoy all the bounty that fishermen take from the sea. Then say a prayer to save the whales, wherever they may be. Thank you, Sheila. Okay, our next one is from Dobie Pasco, and it's called Drunk in Ann Arbor. At 6 a.m., fog along the freeway, silver traffic signals, visiting a wife on Northwestern, traveling south, Plank Road, next exit, Plank Road, next exit, dreaming of seclusion in Ohio. In Ohio. One of the things Dobie likes to write is a lot of haikus. And the next one is from our regular gentleman, our one and only airline pilot, Alan Hodgson, who couldn't be with us this morning. It's called Beneath Danbury, Vermont. 900 feet beneath Danbury, massive saws make their cut. 1 mile deep in the mountains, they churn, winning white marble from the ground. Above, the stone will be polished in size 13 by 4 by 42. Its lower 18 inches will sit in the ground, holding the headstone to attention. The marble is cold and still, as is the veteran laid below. A stone provided free by grateful government. A higher value placed on it by an appreciative American people. The ultimate gift from a young soldier who served and from a family. Thank you, Alan. And the next one is from our regular Scott, who will be back with us next week, Scott Circleback. It's called Each Little Poem. Deep thinkers in a circle of thought, communicating, embracing the marriage of message and voice, listening for the nuances of words that enlighten, sentences that entice, rhythms that linger, and stanzas that seduce, affecting each other in ways too numerous to comprehend. Our thoughts link the chain, each little poem a gold charm worn over our hearts, treasures from an endless chest, chock full of emotion, glittering examples of the spirit we call community. Share your thoughts. Reap the priceless rewards of presenting your expressions, your voice, your message, you. All right. And the next one is from Isolde Hunter. We call her Izzy. And it's New York City 60s Sounds. It's a haiku. Port Authority. Crushing crowds surround dog-guarded man with tin cup. Bumped cup is silent. Subway. In swaying subway, man comes singing, tapping cane. Hear his cup rattle. East Side. New York Christmas time. Bloomingdale's bells are ringing. Tossed coins flash in sun. Upper West Side. Cars, cabs, trucks rumble. Loose coins roll into gutter after gunshots pop. Thank you, Isolde. And our next one, I'm going to go back to Alan now. It's called Colors for a Flag. Mounted, we stood in line at the edge of the wood. Dead brown leaves on ash trees, hardly our cover. Sabers down beside the stirrup to guard their glare from the orange of a low, rising winter sun. Young lads crept the line, picking gobs of packed snow from snore and wobbly hooves. The cold, still air invaded by the puffs and snorts from our nervous steeds' steaming breath. In some anticipation, and with horse heads bobbing, a gentle harness jangle moves up the line in leather-bound mouths. Large wet tongues slather, roll, and rattle silver bits on equine teeth. Slowly, a chain of blue-clad riders emerge from the valley, plodding, still sleepy from a cold, restless night. Our captain points his blade at shoulder level, pauses, then with lungs freshly filled, yells, "Company, charge!" In unison, we break the cover to shrill bugle calls, mixed with screams from sergeants urging us on. Our startled enemy shies in mixed confusion, and the distance between us closes in rapid panic. Careening down the slope in a headlong plunge, crashing into their terrified, befuddled ranks, begins the hacking and stabbing. Screamed vows and curses mixed with the thump of man and beast hitting the snow. Dying. We've been here before, but withdrew. A rabble in defeat, but not this time. The vicious, bloody table turns to us, the glorious victors. In later time, for what? To build our flags and to praise ourselves for spilling red on white and blue? Thank you, Alan. We're going to go back to Izzy. In fact, no, I'm going to tell you what. I want to, Loretta, how about you giving us another one and finishing up with what you started? I want to tell everyone also that Loretta is a missionary, and she's also a minister, and she ministers at her church with the mainstream minister at the church. Am I saying that right, Loretta?
That's correct. I actually have an assigned Sunday that I deliver the message for that Sunday, and my ministry is called Lighthouse Ministries and Outreaches Incorporated. And I also do Bible studies from time to time.
And that church is in Sarasota?
That church is actually on Zoom right now, but our basic headquarters is in Bradenton.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up the
All
chapter
right.
on early reflection. And I was telling you how much I love reading. Here's the next part. Teachers are so important. My first grade teacher made me realize that I was a child who needed to be challenged and kept busy. There was no such thing as kindergarten back then. All I knew going into the first grade was what I had picked up from my 5 older siblings. My first day of school, I was so excited that I got up, washed, and dressed myself and walked into the living room, ready to be taken to school. My parents and older sister laughed at me. Loretta, they told me, go on back to bed. It's still night and we haven't gone to bed yet. I was shocked and probably a little embarrassed. Anyway, Mama had to wake me up the next time. School was fun the first couple of weeks. I only had one problem. I would finish my work so quickly and start talking to my classmate beside me who was not finished. This would cause my teacher to give me 1 to 5 raps on the palm of my hand with her ruler. I quickly figured out to avoid being disciplined, I either had to learn to sit quietly or not work so fast. I chose the former. It would have helped me to be given more work or work that was more challenging. I don't know how I learned to read. I was a good reader when I entered first grade, so after a while, school no longer held much of an appeal for me. I could miss 2 days a week and still not be behind my classmates. For most of my first 4 years, I was always the shortest and the smartest person in my class. My third grade teacher, Miss H, is memorable in that she was the meanest teacher I ever had. She was the only teacher I had who made me feel that I was nothing and nobody. Out of the 20 or more students in her class, we knew she only liked about five of them. She only favored the students whose parents were in her economic group, leaving 7/8 of the class to suffer her dislike on a daily basis. I still remember the sting of always doing my best for her, only to have her make remarks about my family being too poor to pay the supply fee. I don't know if my father could or would not pay the fee, but I remember the pain of my teacher's remark. What lessons did I learn from her? We all concluded she was not a real teacher. A real teacher validates her students. She does not cripple them or tear at that self esteem. She was supposed to care about our minds, not how much money our parents had. I never admired her or respected her, but I know now that she inflicted damage upon the spirits of many young people. I was fortunate by God's grace to have a real teacher the next year to undo some of that damage. Nevertheless, I still remember the pain. I was a likable child, but I could do no right in her eyes. I could not move to another class. We only had one teacher per grade. I still remember the pain. I thank God for the late Edwina Cargill. She was my speech, drama, and publications teacher at Dillard High. She taught me that I have a voice, and then she taught me how to use it. I learned public speaking, writing skills, and so many people skills from her that I still use today. She was a true example of what a real teacher is, spending time to educate me in and out of the classroom. Thank you, Mrs. Cargill. Rest in peace.
That was absolutely wonderful, Loretta. I am Linda Wright, by the way, and we would like to thank all of you for listening to our show today at WKDW Radio 97.5 FM. We are always looking for sponsors for our show as well as volunteers, as we are a nonprofit operation. We have a 501c-3 status. If you would like to sponsor a show or volunteer, please call the radio station at 941 564-8739 or email to info@kdwradio.com. And now for our second half, I just absolutely love your stories, Loretta, and I hope you stick around and I'll fit you in during our second half.
Okay.
I would first like to start off with a story or poem from our radio station manager, R.J. Malloy. He's a wonderful, wonderful writer, and we try to open up a lot of times with his work. This is called Standing Alone at Niagara Falls. From out of the haze of its self-imposed mystery, it rises like a specter to meet me. The lifeless sun lets down its feeble illumination, and I find myself face to face with a miracle. The ceaseless, haunting roar of this unearthly thing assails my ears, and I shake at what I hear. It is as though the Christ has returned and cloven the hearth at we may see eternity. Or as though Machiavelli had burst out of his tomb and had come back once again to play the harsh symphony of reality. Or as though Satan himself was busily beating out his dark timpani on all the empty, lost souls in hell. But no, it is just great water rushing over a cliff towards the ice-slicked rocks below. Nothing less, nothing more. And I, standing here mired in my loneliness, feel as one with the seemingly endless grate of agony that I hear. As though I were Lazarus, released from my crypt in time to come back to tell you all. Or as though I were Ahab, rushing towards the great white flukes, eager to thrust my burning lance of love into the frozen eye of evil. Or as though I were God himself, standing on these wondrous waves of flux, watching the universe as it danced in time to my mind. But no, I am merely a man without my woman, rushing over the edge of reality towards the cold, jagged solitude below. Nothing less, nothing more. And that was from our own R.J. Malloy. And now I'm going to go to Emma Fikes Alberts. Emma is our other co-host. We had, co-hosted at our radio station, Common Grounds. And now with Linda Schell, all three of us are doing it. Emma has her own little show on Sundays on Facebook from her house with Dobie Pasco. And they also read all of our poetry until we're able to get back to the station. And Emma has just had a little procedure done on her mouth within the last week. So we are praying and hoping for your recovery, Emma, and we cannot wait for you to join us again. All right, Emma, I am reading from your book, A Borrowed Moment. And this one is my favorite, called Merry-Go-Round Days. In the summer of 1938, I was 4 years old. Although I had only experienced 3 prior summers, I knew that this was the best season of all. I would sit every day on the brownstone steps of our row home in Philadelphia and marvel at the sights and sounds. There was an organ grinder with a monkey that tipped his hat when you gave him a penny. I thought the monkey's hand felt like leather, and that kind of scared me. The horses that pulled the wagons with milk or fruit and vegetables were enormous to me. I was amazed at all the mounds of crap they left as they moved slowly up the street. The pretzel man with his soft pretzels and mustard was a favorite of mine. It was a rare moment, though, when I was allowed to have a pretzel because my mother said, "He pees in the alley and doesn't wash his hands." The one thing that I could have was a snow cone because that man never touched the ice. The downside, though, was that I was never allowed to have the colored juices he poured from his bottles on my ice. I had to get a cone of plain shaved ice, which my mother took into the house and squeezed fresh orange juice over. I would sit contentedly on the step, eating my snow cone, watching the umbrella repair man, the horseradish man, and the key man who also sharpened knives. I was watching and waiting for the one person in the world that held the key to my happiness, the merry-go-round man. I could hear the scratching music from the old phonograph connected to a loudspeaker before the merry-go-round turned onto my street. I would scream as loud as I could, "The merry-go-round is here! Hurry, Mommy, hurry!" My mother would come out and take me to the curb, so the man would have to slow down. When he stopped, the kids would come from up and down the block and form a line. I had to be the first in line, or the tears would well up in my eyes. There were times when my mother actually paid a penny to a child that might have gotten in front of me so they would switch places with me. The contraption was a flatbed truck with a white circular gate on the back that he pushed around with his bare hands while the scratchy phonograph played the Skater's Waltz. We climbed the 3 steps up into the small circle that held the 6 small wooden horses. I was in Wonderland as soon as I mounted that sad steed with the peeling white paint. My heart filled with joy as I whirling endlessly around. Gone was the panic I woke to every day. The dread of being alone with my mother, who threatened to cut off my legs if I ran through the house. The woman who swore that Jesus can see every bad thing you do and he reports back to me. After 3 minutes, the merry-go-round would stop and all the kids would get off except me. My mother would pay the man to keep me on while the next group filed up the steps. After 3 go-rounds, I was alone on the horse. The kids were gone and the man was ready to move on. This was always the moment, I'm sure, that gave the man nightmares for the rest of his life. The man and my mother would come up and pry my hands from the horse while I screamed and pleaded for one more turn. They both knew from past experience there was no such thing as one more turn for little Emma. As they were dragging me down the steps, the man always said, "That's it, lady. I ain't letting this crazy kid on tomorrow." But every day I was there in front of the line. My mother made me pray every night and promised Jesus that I would get off the merry-go-round. Finally, one day he stopped and he never got out of the truck. He just yelled out, "I ain't stopping here anymore, kid. You ain't worth it." I chased him right down the middle of the street crying that I would change if he came back. He never did. I would sit and walk, and sometimes I could hear the Skater's Waltz on the next block, and I cried silently for that joy I would never feel again. Oh, that was wonderful, Emma. Really, really wonderful. Do you have a
I never
tissue?
tired that story.
Yeah, this was my favorite story. Do you have a tissue? Okay, I got
Sure.
sinus problems. But anyway, all right. That was wonderful, Emma. Okay, sorry about that. All right, I'm going to read one for myself that I wrote this past May, going back to my childhood. This is called Breaking the Surface of Silence. Floating, floating on my back in cool waters, the river of childhood. Under the star-filled nights where peace finds me. Slowly, slowly moving my arms back and forth, feeling the liquid of night ripple through my fingers like in spreading angel wings, keeping afloat, water covering my ears, drowning out sounds from above. Shooting stars riding across full moonlit sky in search of heaven. Scattered diamonds all around me with its reflections on gentle waves appear with each stroke. Feeling weightless, free and unburdened, eyeing the river's edge with reluctance, trees gently slumbering in night's breeze, I turn, swimming downward into the darkness of obscurity for one more chance encounter with absolute tranquility. Kicking my legs, arching, now directed upward toward reality, breaking the surface of silence, inhaling deep breaths of air in a new awakened inception. A lone common loon cries out in comforted welcome. Okay. All right. That's mine here. All right. And now we are going to do one from Mike Neville. Mike is a songwriter and he puts a lot of his songs to poetry. And he has a friend of his who writes the music. He does very well. I think he's got a CD out too. This is called Coffee by Herself. breakfast in the kitchen waiting for him. She calls to him leaning on the windowsill. She had all that she could do, so the morning's coffee wouldn't spill. Birds in the backyard are more important to him. He wouldn't move when she calls him in. Birds at the feeder enjoying their day, till the big dog comes and chases them all away. All the squirrels want to do is play, pick up a nut and run away. Sit up high in the tree on a limb, enjoying the morning, listening to the birds sing. Breakfast in the kitchen waiting for him. She calls to him, leaning on the windowsill. She had all that she could do, so the morning's coffee wouldn't spill. Birds in the backyard are more important to him. She just sat there enjoying her coffee all by herself. If he wants any, he can just make it himself. That was by Mike Neville. Okay, and we'll come back to him. And we have one from our Steve Lind. This is called, let me see which one I want. This is called The Goddess That Unleashes the Truth. Steve likes to use a lot of exotic big words. That's his forte. So I'm hoping I can read this with the mind of which he wrote it. Your eyes are like the mysterious worlds within which volcanic lava swirls, erupting inside my impassioned mind and breathing like a consummate fire, the incendiary flames of which concentrate in a fever pitch, awakening a spectral wrath with a primordial embryonic desire. Your elegance haunts me, your eloquence taunts me, your laughter shatters the walls, or even the world's most impregnable barriers, as though besieged by Caribbean squalls. And the thunderous lightning convocates itself as it confluentially worships you, with the ornate adoration of hysteric perfection that is everything you say and do. Your graceful majesty is the crowning touch of a powerful and savage revelation, gravitating like the vortical ellipsis of a supernova that emblazons its own constellation. You're the princess of poetic, artistic, and musical inspiration, forsooth. And at the moment of its epiphanous creation, you're the goddess that unleashes the truth. Wow, that was good, Steve. That was good. Okay, Loretta, would you like to honor us with another short poem or story?
I have a poem continuing on that theme. It's in 2004. Can you hear me?
Yes.
2004, as I probably was preparing some of the things in the book. It's called An Open Plea to All Who Would Be Teachers. Ask yourself, am I able to look at each child I teach as a person of value? Can you look through my eyes and love me for who I am as you help to shape who I will become? That you can empower me with the words from your lips, or impoverish and bruise my spirit with those same lips. Consider the fragility of a child and understand that as a child, I have not yet mastered the art of resiliency. Wounds still cut deep, and I come to you with a level of trust unlike any other. Take care with this tender and special plant. Cultivate it, nourish and nurture it. Water it with your wisdom and knowledge, and I in turn will make you proud, do you good, and leave my mark upon this world as you have left your mark upon me.
I want to read something else of Emma Fikes Albert. This is called Time for Tea, and this comes from her book, All That Is Familiar. All was ready. The table was set with the finest silver and overflowing with confections of every kind. The clock struck the afternoon hour of 4. At precisely the same moment came a knock upon the door. For one brief moment I panicked. The fear of what I was about to do gripped me. Has anyone ever dared such a bold act as inviting time for tea? Surely, if this ploy of mine should fail, the wrath of the heavens will fall upon my head. I gathered my courage and, smiling sweetly, opened the door. Oh, my surprise when kindly fatherly face met mine. Right on time, said he with a twinkle in his eye. My fears melted as I led him to the table of temptations. We passed the time amiably and spoke only of things that would evoke feelings of worth and camaraderie. I shook my head in disbelief as he told me that other people consider time the enemy. As we chatted on, I peered cautiously over his shoulder to the barometer of my plan, the clock on the wall. It was still 4 o'clock, and yet we passed many hours. I began to chatter on nervously, my voice rising a pitch. I was fulfilling a dream of many lifetimes, making time stand still. No sooner had the thought crossed my mind when he rose abruptly. I must fly, he said. Wait, I cried. Time and tide wait for no man, he replied. Please, I begged, have more cake, more tea. But alas, he slipped away, leaving but a few grains of sand as testament to his presence. I smiled victoriously. 2 hours, however, small was a triumph. I heard the clock begin to strike the hour. Smugly, I stared at the closed door as I counted the chimes. 6 o'clock. What a fool I had been to think he was on my side, when all the while he was simply passing time. Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful poem. I really like that, Emma. I really, really do. Okay, I have another one from myself. It's called There's No Perfect World in This Particular Melody. A bemoaning trumpet wails in the wildness of dreams, making its melody known, tugging at the heartstrings of visions deep. It screams, I want, I want, I want to fly through vivid colors of imagination's story yet to be told. As dry, prickly tumbleweeds of the vast plains blow confusingly in winds to nowhere in particular. Melancholia pours out from the horned soul to my ears, resonating woefulness, almost like hugging oneself whilst rocking back and forth with each hushed breeze in a dispirited lullaby for the ache of wanting more. That long, deserted highway, stretched amidst almost barren landscapes, waits for a new song to be sung as the tormented trumpet continues to bleat sorrow over the human condition.
Mm.
And the human condition, well, you know how that is. Okay, it's not doing too good nowadays, but all right, we still have time. We still have time, Emma. All right, I am going to read another one from Mike Neville. This is called The Sense of Calm. I was awakened on this dark, dreary morning from the sound of thunder and rain pouring. I could not stand the noise that it made. It could wake a dead man from his grave. When it stopped, there was nothing to be heard, not a sound from children, not a song from a bird. I always feared the sense of calm. It makes me feel there is something wrong. I opened the shades to see what I could see. In the window, I only see the reflection of me. Where has everybody gone? Is there something terrible going wrong? Have I been left here all alone to live in this world on my own? Or is it just me having a bad dream? A dream that makes me want to scream. Where has everybody gone? I need someone to hold on. I need to know, where did all the people go? Is that something only dead men know? Where have all the people gone? There's something strange going wrong. Have I been left here all alone to live in this world on my own? I need to just lay my head back down, hope and pray I will be found. It makes me feel there is something wrong. I always feared this sense of calm. Oh, that was deep, Mike. I really, really like that. And like I said, we're reminding you that we are coming from WKDW Radio 97.5. This will also be heard on the radio on Sunday. I believe it's 3:05 p.m. in the afternoon. All right, Loretta, we have like 6 more minutes. Can you put us on to something else?
Sure.
I love your stories. They're great.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple of poems. I'm going to read one called The Absence of Tears. The absence of tears does not mean there is no pain. It does not mean I am not crying. The absence of tears does not mean I am not hurt. The wounds are so deep, there is no blood to be seen. The absence of tears does not mean there's no sorrow. The sorrow would kill me if I let it show. The absence of tears means that God has me covered and is holding me safely in his arms. And my second poem.
That was absolutely beautiful. That was beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. The second one is written in response to a former pastor that I had who's now in jail for molesting young boys. And I wrote this after I left his church because I realized that people had been telling us the right things about him. But,
yeah.
And I was sad for a long time because this was the person I loved. It's called I'm Through Mourning You. You lost my love, and I realized I never really had yours. You presented a beautiful facade, caring, when underneath was a rotting, festering sore. You hate yourself, therefore you have no respect for anyone else, and can perpetrate your lies and sickness and hide behind feigned ignorance. Well, I know who I am. I confess my fault and my sin and keep my account short with God. I'm not pretending that I'm better than anyone else. I'm living in and under the straight grace of Jesus Christ. His mercy guides my every step. I prayed for you, wished for you, hope that you will get better. No more. It can only happen if you want it to. And you have sunk into such a state of delusion that even in those brief moments when your sanity returns, you only see the you that others have supposed you to be. I'm through mourning you.
That was absolutely beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. Okay, we have a few minutes left. I'm going to read another one from our station manager, R.J. Malloy. This is called The Healing. Confusion at first is barely visible. Like beginning rain on the sidewalk, it accumulates at its own pace. Loneliness is a dark-haired woman calling a lost child. The sound is disturbing, oddly a comfort. Apathy is gray, cloudy, an in-between time that fills space, like a cheap patch on foam rubber. Anger is a fierce toothed thing, gnawing on bones from the inside out. Affection is necessary, like the air that filters sunlight. Music is the water that heals. No thing can stand before it. Let me sing to you. Oh, that was beautiful. And of course, RJ, you know I love my music. I love my music. Okay, I am going to try to do another one from Emma. This is called Where Does the Gifted Child Go? This is from Emma Fikes Alberts from her book, All That Is Familiar. We love you, Emma. Born of an ungifted mother and an angry father, a round peg forced into the square never quite fits, but it will do. Never beaten into submission, yet willing to forgo all the dreams one lifetime can afford. The strange child never understood, looking at the world from the outside. Companions of fear and humiliation played their monotonous tunes, drowning out the flow of life. Where does the gifted child go when condemned to a life of mediocrity? That was absolutely beautiful, Emma.
How many of
Yes.
people are condemned to a life of mediocrity?
Isn't that something? Right.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to read one more called The Goodbye Road to Home. And this is after I left my sister's farm that she just sold last year. Leaving the hills, dirt roads, valleys of farms, harvested already, plowed acres upon acres, making ready for new planting. Pine trees vast, lined up in clumped unison like in soldiers standing at attention. Leaving pure beauty amid stillness of winter. Saying goodbye to that long road of family until next time. Now sitting amongst strangers, absorbed in their own thoughts, electronic walkways, numbered gates, far as the eye can see, ready for steel wings to take flight, but still wishing for the crows as they take flight overhead, along that long dirt road, through the wood as they squawk their goodbyes. Okay, all right. We want to thank everybody for coming here and visiting us this week. Thank you so much, Loretta. We do hope you come next week or whenever you can. We really, really enjoyed your work.
Thank you. I enjoyed hearing all of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we've really hope everybody out there in TV land or whatever enjoyed our show today. We would like to thank Marie LaBrosse, our technician, for which we would never be able to do this if not possible. And thank you very much to RJ Malloy, our station manager, for making this happen. I want to thank Linda Schell, my co-host, for the wonderful, work that she does with marketing, because, she's the one that brings all you people in. And we hope, Emma, you are recovering. We love you. I am Linda Wright. I am your co-host this week. We will see you next Tuesday at 11:04. And please submit your poems to Linda's email if you want us to read your stuff on the mail, since we can't be, on the show, since we can't be together. We love you guys and have a great week. Thank you again, Loretta Anderson. We enjoyed your work. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you next Tuesday.